Welcome, everyone. I'm John Pratt, head of success as well as strategist here at Content at Scale. I'm doing a 4-part series of events right here on our channel. And the goal is to bring inspiration from guests that will make you think in a whole new way. And each of these guests, by the way, in my 4-part series, is taking the stage at Content Hacker Live. That's Content Hacker Live, our event this March in Austin. So for more on Content Hacker Live, check out contenthacker.com/event. That's contenthacker.com/event. But you're here today to learn how to sell AI-driven SEO content services and close nearly every client with the founder of Direction.com. So it's my pleasure truly to introduce a distinguished figure in the world of SEO. He's truly blended his military precision with entrepreneurial acumen out there, elevating businesses in search rankings, but also crafting success stories through strategic insights. So the man himself, Chris Kirksey, welcome to the stage. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for that intro, John.
Right on. Absolutely. Trying to switch around the cameras here so that you can get above your little title there. There. Now you're above the words Chris Kirksey, founder of Direction.com. How you been?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Especially the weather's better here in Austin than it was the week before,
That's
so
right.
I'm doing real well.
Austin, yeah. So, yeah, what is the weather, by the way? It's like 60 here, and this is in Mesa, Arizona, right outside Phoenix. Usually
I
pretty
believe it's
hot.
actually 60 here right now.
There we go.
And it's supposed to be up to 70 today. So,
I went there last March,
yeah.
and it was so nice. Like, it was like a good 10, 15 degrees colder than here, but very similar because, like, we're both desert.
Yeah.
I pay attention to, like, the plants and the air around me when I'm in different places, and anyway, pretty similar. You have an interesting background, my friend.
Oh,
You come from what I was just reading about it on your page, but something about intelligence gathering in the military. What branch, and what does that mean?
yeah. I was in the Army and I learned Farsi and Dari while I was in the Army. And from there, it took me to a career into the NSA, and then from the NSA to the CIA. And yeah, I mean, we talk about intelligence gathering, how that, like I say, it definitely relates to SEO. Just instead of enemy, swap that for competition. So,
Yeah,
researching the competition, just learning about the competition, reverse engineering what they're doing, and making sure that you're better than them. That's how
yeah,
you win.
yeah.
So,
I have a few questions later on, like about how that translates. Like you said, swap the word enemy for competition. I mean, it's like a lot of things are the same, but I don't want to conflate them too much because it's a totally different world, right? Like military and SEO. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's at its fundamental base is really not all that different in terms of the intelligence you gather. How? So I want to go like from your background and then phasing into the entrepreneurial journey. Did something in your life, like what event happened that made you pivot, or that you decided to pivot?
it was a few things. In terms of living, I didn't want to continue to be constantly deployed out to the Middle East. That was one thing. The other was that I've always been what you call a computer nerd. I built my first computer when I was 8, and built my first website when I was 14. Started buying and selling domain names, and when I was in the military, I was building websites for people on the side for extra money, and it was just something I've always loved, and I knew that I could make a lot more money doing that versus risking my life.
Hmm.
And if I'm
Yeah,
going to be spending constant, 60 plus hour weeks, I might as well do it to make a lot more money.
yeah. The 60 hours are there anyway, right? It's like you might as well
Yep.
leverage it uh, with more specific, like more, I guess, profitable skills.
And actually give me a life and, do something
Yeah.
that
How long you been in Austin?
I've been in Austin I'm on my third year right now.
Okay. Are you from there before, like pre-military?
Nope.
Okay, right on. Where were you like born? Bring me to the
Yeah,
point of military.
lived all over. I
Okay.
grew up in Maryland, and that's where I joined the military from. And when I was in the military, I lived in a bunch of different places. From California to Georgia, and you know, Iraq, Afghanistan. And then when I was out of the military, I moved to Florida. And then I moved from Florida to Virginia, then to Utah, then California for a few months, and then finally found my home here in Texas.
Yeah. You got the whole tour, man.
Yeah.
That's everywhere. You mentioned on your site, ever since I read your about page, this has been on my mind. Your very early entrepreneurial journeys, and you just touched on them as well. Like, again, I forget what exactly I read, but you were like entrepreneur early on with different offerings. What were some of those, and what did you learn from those experiences, like as a kid even?
Yeah. Well, the first company I ever started was just an eBay company when I was 9 years old. And that's also where I learned that there's money to be made online and
Mm-hmm.
the power of being able to write content, uh, to be able to sell the products you're selling. And anyway, so I was 9 years old. I would go to yard sales, pick things up that I saw were selling. It was a lot of the time it was books. And at the end of the day, if I wanted to get a book, people would they'd be like, "Oh, you want these books, kid? Here you go. You can just have them." So I'd be getting mostly free books, and then just going home, listing them up on eBay, and yeah, that was the first time I ever started making money online
And
through
they're like,
copy.
you're like, did you know I'm selling these?
I
Because they don't
told some
care.
people, no, they didn't care. But I definitely told people, I was like, hey, so I sell things on eBay. Do you have anything that I could sell for more money on eBay? People would just laugh. They'd be like, yeah, here, try this.
They're like, oh, cute kid, just give them all my stuff and have at it. Well, I
Yeah,
guess that works, right?
yeah.
Did you like did as a kid? It's hard to like learn. I don't know. Like, did you learn any lessons then that you still apply, or was that just like kid stuff and you just got your hands dirty a little bit with
Well,
entrepreneurial muscles?
it's kind of how I also learned HTML. Well,
Oh
there
yeah,
was a
okay,
MySpace back then. You could customize MySpace to HTML, and
yeah,
but with eBay, there was, if you wanted your listing to stand out when someone clicked on it, you had to learn how to custom code HTML to make that eBay page look pretty, and also had the right content. So I was, I'd say ahead of other people in my grade because I was studying a lot about reading and writing and just like perfecting sales copy.
yeah, yeah. And I'll ask more about this as we go on, but I do want to know like with this is more of like pivoting from military to entrepreneurial, but like why specifically digital marketing or why specifically SEO, and did it look like that at first?
So I had no idea. I started the company in 2016. I was 26. I'll put it this way. When I was 25, I had no idea I'd be starting a business a year
Mm-hmm.
later. No clue. I thought I was going to be in the CIA the rest of my life. That was the plan, the goal for a while, until it wasn't, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And SEO, when I knew I was going to do something with computers, the internet, and stuff like that, web design, building websites with WordPress. And when I started the company, we did sell a bunch of different services, anything to do with digital marketing. But after a few years, realized that SEO was the one thing that I loved most and my team loved most. It was the best service offering we had. And on top of that, our clients 100% were telling us how much better they liked SEO than the leads that came in from ads or social or anything else. So I was like, well, if this is our favorite thing to do and it's our client's favorite service offering that we've got, let's just do that. Let's drop everything else and focus just on SEO. And I love it because SEO is not something that you even have to go to school and get a degree for. It's really just how self-taught are you? How self-driven are you? And I was like, well, if all it takes is me to study and learn to master something and I don't have to get any piece of paper that proves it, sweet,
Yeah.
I'll crush this.
Why do they like those leads? Like what? Because they would pay for ads, I imagine,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes, or different on different platforms. What? And this is a little bit of a loaded question because I'm pretty familiar with like SEO leads and the value. But what did your clients see or notice? Why do they like those leads better?
So what it came down to was the leads that were coming in from SEO tended to convert better. And it seems because, and when we would look at like customer journeys, either through Google Analytics or we use CallRail to track everything. And it can show, it can break down, they went from this page to this page and then they converted, or they spent this amount of time on this page before they clicked to this page and then converted. What we found was that people who were coming in organically were doing their research and they were spending time, and they were more informed buyers and they knew what they wanted. They took time to make that decision versus when someone clicks an ad, if it's on Google, it's just someone searching quickly and they just click the first thing. With social media, you're just kind of popping up in front of their face, and sure, if it's something they want or need, great, but they weren't thinking about it at the time. Their mind wasn't right at the time. Whereas a lead, if you can contact them within 5 minutes of them submitting a form that came organically, it's gold. And
Because they've sold them themselves.
Exactly.
What kind of like, I know it's specific to each company, but like, what kind of problems happen if you attract, 10,000 of the wrong customers versus 100 of like pretty good qualified customers? With ads, you could attract who knows.
And that's a serious problem with that a lot of our clients were running into with having a sales team that's only so big. You can only handle so many leads. So when people are calling or emailing and they're just asking questions that are kind of either a waste of time, or they want something free, or they don't have enough money, or they haven't done their research, it detracts from your potential business revenue because you're not focusing on the right leads, the best leads. And, it's just a lot of time gets wasted, and that's money. And especially if you're paying for these leads, then you're trying extra hard to convert these leads because you paid for them.
Yeah.
And they're not as good. So it's a serious issue in terms of growing a business. You've got to make sure you're focusing on generating quality leads, not quantity.
Yeah. I've seen customers, or rather leads convert, but then it's like too forced sometimes. If it's from the wrong channels, like if it's an ad and it's interrupting their experience on, like you mentioned, Facebook or whatever social media, then sure, they come in because they're like enticed, but how really committed are they to finding a solution for a problem they may or may not have? And now they're paying you and they expect X, but you give them Y, and that was never made clear. I can see that can be a really long-term
and
headache.
I will say something that we did notice too with Facebook ads specifically is people would sometimes that form gets auto-filled, and people think they're like hitting X or cancel or something, and they hit submit, and they're like, oh no, I didn't mean to fill out that form, or no, I didn't mean to hit submit, or so it's back to wasting time. It's not good if you're trying to grow a business.
Yeah, and then you're filtering through your leads and finding the good ones, which they should all be good and qualified, but
ideally, you always get some leads that aren't, but
yeah. Now, a lot of our audience are new content creators, if they've begun at all. A lot of them have. But can you talk, and you can take as long as you want or as little as you want, about how to sell these AI-driven? So AI has now entered the chat, right? In terms of like, so to speak, entering the chat of our lives as marketers. How do you sell SEO content services in general, and then how do you sell your clients on the AI driven or AI created, human edited SEO content? Like, how does that work without AI, and what has that turned into today for you?
With SEO services, anyone who has been paying for them or has paid for them in the past, I can pretty sure at least 99% can all agree on one thing. It takes time to create content. Right, you can create a content strategy and then hand it to a writer, and if depending on how many posts you need, the content length, the research that needs to go into it, depending on your industry, it can take anywhere from a few days to sometimes even 2 months for a single piece of content. And when you're paying monthly for SEO, I saw the Search Engine Journal State of SEO for 2024. They released something, and the average, they surveyed, I think it was 3,000 companies, and the average SEO campaign price is $5,000 a month. With 13% of the companies were paying $10,000 or more a month. If you have to wait for content while you're paying $5,000, $10,000 plus per month, that return on investment is going to take longer. So with AI coming on the scene, you can create content the same day you create the strategy.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so within days, you can go from AI content creation to editing to SEO optimizing and publishing. This can all be done for a single post in under a week. So that seriously slashes the time. And the faster you can publish more high quality content, well, the faster the results are going to come. And therefore, as an SEO company, you're going to keep that client a lot longer because you're going to be producing results a lot faster.
Interesting. So the churn, if I'm paying like, 5,000 a month and I'm not going to see results for 3 months, let's say two different scenarios. In one scenario, I am aware of that, right? So I can be a little bit more patient, right? But then on that third month, I'm going to be like, Chris, give me those results, right? Whereas in the other scenario, if I'm not even aware of the time that it takes to rank, like before I'll see return, then I might churn, halfway through that first month or that second month. Do you see that happening, or what does that look like in the real world?
I would, I'd like to say that's more so a fault of the agency for not properly explaining that it takes time. At the same time, I think if anyone's going to be spending $5,000 a month, I'd hope they do the research to understand that it doesn't take 1 or 2 months for results. But what we do see is happier clients.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll tell clients, hey, you understand this is a 6-month investment, year-long investment minimum. And it's, in perspective, it is really easy to sell because SEO, the ROI on SEO outperforms PPC, social media, email marketing, and it even outperforms the stock market. There's a study this was on Forbes, where the average ROI on SEO was, and this is a big difference, but anywhere from 50 to 5,000% average ROI.
Yeah.
Stock market's 9 to 10% average ROI year over year. So if you have a company and you're putting money into the stock market, but you're not putting money into your own company with SEO, I mean, you're missing out on a whole lot of ROI. So if you've done the research, you understand as a business owner the actual value of SEO, and when done correctly, right, you hire the right company and everything. And when you do that, and then expecting, say, a certain percent ROI after 12 months, but then you get it in 6 because the content was produced a lot faster. I mean, that makes a huge impact on your business. Now you can grow a lot faster. You can hire more. And there's a lot you can do, right? You can create a better company, offer better services. When you have more money as a business owner, there's a lot more you can do to make sure that you're providing the best possible value to your customers. And with AI content, speeding that up is gold.
Did your clients or prospects, how aware are they the AI is involved, and are they averse to it?
So 100% of our clients are aware, and we have not received any kickback at all.
Yeah.
And, it may be for a few, we let them know beforehand too, when we were switching over. And it was kind of funny, the feedback that we got. There's people saying, oh, I'm glad because I'm not happy with the content we've been getting. I'm like, oh, thanks for letting me know a few months later that our human writers are not making you happy. You should have let me know up front. But that being said, our clients actually really liked the idea that it's not writers creating the content. It's more so SEO experts creating the content.
Mm-hmm.
And they, they've been happy with the content. They see that we're able to produce the content pretty quickly. I mean, we've had times where a client, red alert, I need a post on this because, this new change just came out with the IRS and taxes. I want to be the first person to put out information on this. And, within an hour with AI content, we can get it generated, and, the client will fact check it because talking taxes, IRS and stuff like that. Whereas it's, you can take that IRS page of the update, give it content at scale, and it can create something a lot faster than a human could. And so with human fact checks and SEO optimizations and everything, it's just easy to crush it.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. It's like this this avant-garde content, right? Let's say the IRS just comes out with an update. Let's say it wasn't even anticipated, it just came out that day, right? Mm-hmm. And your client is of course aware of that, and then he makes you aware of that. It's like, okay, let's, speed to market. Let's make a post. Mm-hmm. And whereas if you use content at scale, you have a lot of options. So you can click create from a keyword, which if you do that, in that case, it might not be able to go research stuff because stuff hasn't been published about that topic. But I think you touched on something important when creating like thought leadership content on content at scale is take that original source that just came out, an hour ago on the IRS mm-hmm. website or whatever, plug that into content at scale. It writes a blog post on that. And then you take that result, and what do you do with that? You edit it and publish it? Or I guess you pass mm-hmm. it to your client, right? For fact check and then publish.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's great because it's an SEO person not having to go back to the editor, go back to the writer and be like, hey, no, make the H2s this, do talk more, you missed this. Our SEO experts can just do the proper research for the proper, what should be the proper tags and everything. And, the keywords to be included in there, and they can just, it's almost like they wrote it.
Yeah.
Basically.
The client.
No, the SEO expert.
The SEO expert.
Creating the content.
Yeah.
And obviously the client can come in and make sure that it's all accurate information, and even maybe include a little quote like, we say blah, blah, blah. If the IRS has reached out to you about this, let us know within 24 hours because blah, blah, blah could happen,
Yeah. A little call to action.
I mean, it all needs human touch. Don't get me wrong. But it's great that things can just move a lot more quickly. And there's, when there's a lot less steps necessary in the process, quality control is a lot easier.
Yeah.
When there's a lot less, what's the quote? Less hands in the bucket or something like that.
Yeah, like I call it moving parts in the machine.
Yeah, less moving parts in the machine. That's it.
Our founder, our president, Julia, has a presentation. I'm not sure where she shared it, but I saw it, and it's like her process. So she ran an agency, a human agency for content for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. And she shared her processes in a diagram. Super complex diagram because, hey, 3 years ago, that's what it took. Is all these hands, like you were saying, these hands in the bucket, pieces of the machine, moving parts. And now it's just like way more simple, way fewer potentials for failure, like failure points. AI generates it, you make sure it makes sense, and you publish it. Like not super hard, right? What but before you publish, or before you even start creating the content, like you're familiar, of course, more than any of us, with gathering intel from the military, from SEO. So what kind of intel do we gather in SEO before we create or even think about creating content?
Well, there's definitely a good bit of information that we gather. And really, the first things first is, what does the client want, right? What are their KPIs? What are their goals? what are their best services, what are their best products, because ultimately we need to drive revenue as fast as we can. That's how we keep a client. We prove our ROI fast, or at least as fast as we can. So knowing the client KPIs and everything, then we go into keyword research, competitor analysis, audience analysis, search intent analysis. I think that's actually one of the most important pieces, right? Because if you want to rank for a specific keyword, you have to know what type of content to create in order to rank for that keyword. So first things first, just Google that keyword, right? If Google's showing blog posts that are a question around that keyword, maybe that's what you want to do. If Google is showing, it really just depends on what Google is showing. You want to give Google what it wants, because Google is giving users what they believe the users are looking for.
Yeah.
So I think, search intent analysis is super, super important. But also auditing the current content on the site. Do you even need to create new content? Or do you just need to optimize old content, add more to it? See what kind of silos, if any, are on the site. And, back to the keyword research, there's the long tail keywords, just overall, making sure that what you're doing is technically sound too, because if you're publishing content and the site loads in 10 seconds, that's an issue. Doesn't matter how good the content is, that's an issue. And one of the biggest things is, we always will recommend clients, if they don't have a good looking site already, we recommend building a new site, because that's huge, right? Like at the end of the day, you drive traffic with an awesome content strategy. If it doesn't convert because people don't trust you because your website's ugly, which that does have a huge factor, especially for organic leads, because they probably went to 2 or 3 other competitors before landing on you, or plan on going to 2 or 3 other competitors after finding your result. If they're like, wow, this other site looks awesome, even if the content's not as good, it's crazy how much they'll actually trust that over your site. But overall, to answer your question, before creating content, focus on the KPIs, the search intent, search intent analysis, like what Google is showing for that keyword when doing keyword research, and then reverse engineering what competitors are doing, how much, you can use different tools. Like one of my favorites are Conductor SEO, the little plugin for Chrome. You can see all types of stats about a page, from the number of keywords, because you don't want to write a 3,000 word blog post when Google's showing just 500 to 1,000 word blog posts. Maybe you just get a 1,500 word blog post up and you beat them. You don't have to go through all that time to edit 3,000 plus words when that's not even what you need.
You mentioned the ugly site, which really captivates me. Like, because a lot of the ugly sites do not captivate me. The topic captivates me. So I don't know if people know this, but and you know far more than I do, but I want to let our audience know, like, Google, there are humans out there that work at Google who are like judging you, like who are judging your site, and as it pops up in the SERPs, they are judging your site when it pops up in search results. They're judging it on experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And if you have an ugly site, that looks spammy, does it not?
It can, yeah. And I'm gonna actually, there was something Google. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. So are you referring to the search quality raters?
Yeah, those. Yeah.
Yeah, Google actually just terminated a contract with a company called Appen for their search quality raters.
Interesting. What were they not adhering to the guidelines?
Well,
why'd they let them go?
My guess, I could read a little more into if they say why, but the guess is that their AI is getting better. That's my guess. But it's, yeah.
So now they're judging you at scale. they're judging websites.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Even if AI can see what a website looks like and judge it. I don't know. I also know that if Google did have AI that could do that, they're not going to put it out there.
Yeah. Put it out there like they're not going to let you know.
Yeah, like, hey, if your site has like blue 20% of the time, we're going to judge it as better.
Well,
Like,
then people are going to game it.
yeah, exactly.
You're going to game the system, and then a new level of spammy looking things will like quickly arise. Overnight spam will
It'll add a whole
get
other
better.
layer to SEO too.
How do you tell clients that they have an ugly site? Because sometimes they just spent $20,000 on it last quarter, right? They don't want to hear it's ugly.
I feel like usually they know.
They do know.
Usually
Okay.
they know. They have a hunch, or they ask, like, "What do you think about my site?"
They keep
Like,
asking.
they ask in a certain tone or a way. Um, I don't think I've ever seen an excited person that spent $20,000 on a site and was like, "Isn't this like, oh, like, I
Well,
don't know."
they
Usually,
ask.
I
Yeah.
I feel like usually they would have come back to they wouldn't have approved the design, or I don't know.
Okay. But
But I
they,
do know there's definitely people who do get websites and then they think it looks good. I don't know. I
and
mean,
it just doesn't perform.
yeah.
With intent, that's a huge topic, right? I mean, we could go for probably a couple hours just on intent.
Mhm.
Ahrefs. So I saw you're affiliated with them on your website. It says like you're a partner. They just released, their YouTube channel. They just released a YouTube video maybe a week ago about I forget what it's called, but like the part of SEO that everybody gets wrong, right? And then Sam O is up there on the YouTube channel talking about intent. Because I feel like if you don't understand intent, you don't understand SEO. Like you don't even stand a chance. Like, so I guess to form that into a question, when people try to do SEO themselves, do they get intent wrong?
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone that tries to do it for themselves,
Yeah.
but a lot of the time, yes. I've seen some crazy things in terms of, as an example, a client that we're just starting to work with. I saw that the blog posts, I get why they were upset with their past agency. They're spending tons of money, and the blog posts that were being published, just, I was mind blown about how terribly targeted they were in terms of like the intent, the keywords being targeted. Like, yikes. It's almost as if they just thought, like, hey, this industry, people think this, and we're just right about something. It was quite interesting to see, but there was clearly no user intent researched there.
Yeah. Like you said, Google it,
Yeah.
right? Google is like, if I was to rank, excuse me, the best SEO tools out there and include all the highest paid, all the plugins, all the everything, Google is free and it would rank probably number one on my list of
Yeah.
like best SEO tool. Because how many people pay for all these tools, which, hey, the paid tools are great, right? To learn about keyword research and volume and competition. But they do all that and they don't actually go out and Google the keyword. Like,
Yeah.
so,
To
so
see the type of
yeah, to see what's ranking. Because sometimes, and this was brought up recently in certain SEO communities just last week. If you are trying to rank for, let's say, like Miami personal injury attorney or something, or personal injury attorney city modifier, right?
yeah.
Any city, you can be ranking like number one. And you're like, oh, I'm killing it, right? I'm number one. But then you go Google that term, you're like two scrolls down. You're not even, because you don't make the map pack or with the local pack, whatever they call it. You don't make the little carousels that Google shows before the top organic result. You're way down there. And like, yeah, you're ranking and ooh, yeah, you're number one. Maybe that's your KPI. But like, is it turning into a sale? I
Yeah.
think is important, right? Because
Oh,
that's going to
absolutely.
drive the revenue.
Yeah.
It's
It
like an
depends on,
evolving game.
yeah. I mean, it also is a numbers game, right? If you're targeting a search term that gets 10,000 searches a month, yeah, you're going to get users who skip past all that, and they'll do their research clicking through every site on the first page.
Yeah, yeah.
So But if it's something where it's a long tail, very specific keyword that maybe only gets 10 to 20 searches a month, um, you know, having other things above the actual organic results will probably detract from getting traffic from those 10, 20 searches a month. You might get 1 or 2 hits. Depends.
And the longer the keyword, like I guess I shouldn't like scare my audience into thinking that it's worthless to rank for number one, because it's definitely not. Like it's definitely worth it. So if there's a really long keyword and you're ranking number one, hey, you might be getting like 30% of the clicks or even more in that SERP. So you're winning still. Like the longer the keyword, there's probably not going to be a whole carousel above you if it's a really long keyword. There's just going to be like maybe one sponsored result, which if you're anything like me, you completely ignore those. But and then they're ranking, very well. What kind of like, because I want to get to the closing part of like closing nearly every client. Like what kind of objections do you see prospects that they have to overcome in your agency when you are about to sell somebody on your services and help them out, but they're just not quite ready yet? What are they asking? What are they trying to overcome?
Yeah, the top concern when AI content gets brought up is Google going to detect it? And that's where we let them know. Google's flat out come out and said, we don't care. As long as it's correct content, it's quality content, and it's matching the user intent, which makes sense because that's how Google gets people to come back to Google, by answering questions the best possible way and better than Bing and Yahoo, etc. And if you can do that, you keep Google alive. So Google really, I get it. Why would they care if you're providing the best possible answer? Why would they care who wrote it? At the end of the day, too, I have a huge, I don't know what to call it. I do not like content or AI detection tools personally. I think they're all crap. I think they're all BS. Not all, but I'll say it all. Because
what is it? Yeah.
To an extent, right? To an extent. So when clients come and they're like, well, what if so number one, it's like, okay, AI detection tools, you throw something in there, you can, and basically it picks up on a few core things such as like fluff, repeated use of words or phrases or sentences. And a lot of it is just, if you write bad content, you wrote bad content. It doesn't matter if an AI wrote it or if a human wrote it, it's bad content. There should just be bad content detectors, not AI content detectors.
Yeah.
But also, guess what? Google doesn't care if you use AI, number one. Number two, I can almost guarantee no potential client is going to your site saying, wow, this content is good. Let me go check on an AI tool if an AI wrote it.
Yeah.
Oh, an AI wrote it? I don't want to do business with you anymore. Like, doubt that's happening. Highly doubt that's happening.
In academia last year, that was happening. I mean, a little bit even still. A professor gets, I've seen this. A professor gets a well-written paper. They go test it against AI. That's like one of their first things. Yeah. Because they know in the syllabus, the first little check mark is, I promise not to, use AI or whatever.
Yeah. Well, if you made a promise not to do that, then that's on you.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. But they're like checking. But then the problem is, hey, like, let's say they did not use AI. So this is true. This is what's happening. I see this every day. So the student will actually not use AI, and then they'll go submit the homework, and then it's like sometimes flagged as AI because it's actually just flagged as bad content, to your point, right? And then the teacher goes, hey, this is, I don't know what the teacher does after that, but the student becomes very interested in not being detected or detectable as bad content. So they use like one of our features in Content at Scale helps them turn their own human written content, which may be poor, into like better content, And so they rewrite it so it's not detectable. They're turning their human written work like into not terrible human, into like AI work, right? At the end of the day, AI created it, but then it passes, so the teacher's happy because it's actually better than what the human, it's this wild game, almost like cat and mouse sometimes in academia anyway.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing, because obviously you're writing for a teacher who said don't use AI, whereas with SEO you're writing for Google who said I don't care.
Yeah.
Use whatever you need to give the best possible answer. So that's I feel like those are two pretty separate situations. Use cases, but overall, yeah, I think AI content detectors should just be called crap content detectors.
.com, crapcontentdetector.com. Get the domain.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. Is it good or is it bad? Does it answer the question? Does it not? Is it wasting someone's time or is it not? Is it providing value or is it not? Is it selling or is it not? There's a lot of questions there, and that's what matters, not who wrote it and was it possibly a computer. Like if it was, then guess what? If it's obviously like AI generated, it'll be on your site and someone will read it and it may not convert because there's a bunch of fluff or bad spelling or bad grammar or repeated use of something, or it doesn't make sense. That's on you, right? That's going to hurt you at the end of the day. So I get why people want to detect AI, but if you're using, for example, if you're a US based company marketing to US customers, you don't want to be hiring an overseas SEO company to be creating your content, because even if they are using AI, they don't know how to edit it properly in order to cater to your target audience. Your target audience is going to realize something's up here. This is weird, or it looks like someone in another country wrote it. Whether they did or whether an AI did, either way, it's not going to convert. That's the issue.
That's a back button right there. It's like, even like 5 years ago, if I see a blog, so pre-AI, it's not pre-AI, but like to the extent that AI is out there right now creating content, this is pre that, where I'll be reading a blog post about whatever. First paragraph, something's off, right? It sounds terrible. How do I trust this? I can't. Boom, I'm gone.
Yep.
Next, next
I've seen
result.
I've seen a lot, and it's crazy because I've seen content that was just such bad content written by humans, just so much more poorly than AI content that's bad.
Like even if AI tried, could it write
like,
that bad?
It's like, oh, what? Like, so people are like, oh, you're taking jobs from writers. It's like, well, if you're a great writer, I don't know if that'd be an issue, because I've seen some terrible writers and some terrible content produced all before AI. I've seen it. I mean, like I said, I started this company in 2016, and it wasn't until very recently that AI really was able to be used for content creation. And for years, I saw some terrible content, and I get clients that complain about the terrible content that was written. That doesn't happen anymore now that we're using AI.
Because the clients are aware of what's out there, what they can do.
Well, the AI content is so we call it human powered AI content, what we offer.
Yeah.
And so we have SEO experts going in and optimizing, editing, and publishing this content. So instead of it having to go through multiple people, it goes just one person, depending on the industry, right? Sometimes some things may need fact checks, but in general, it's 1 to 2 people that looks over content, and it's the AI content needs usually less edits than the human content we used to get before did. And even otherwise, like when we had to get really, really great content writers, it costs a lot. It's not cheap. Worth it, but not cheap. But also, I write blogs, and I've been writing blogs since I started the company, and I'll consider myself a writer. I am in no way threatened by AI. I love it. It helps me with my creativity. I've been getting really creative with different prompts and being able to really take something and make it better.
Yeah.
And I forget who said it at some point throughout history. It was maybe a president or something, but everything is essentially the same thing recreated, which is true. It's just everything is just a better version of its predecessor.
Yeah.
So there is no truly like uniquely said, like you're not the first person ever to mention, why broccoli is good for you, right? Like,
You just might be better at organizing that information into a digestible, for lack of a better word, because the topic is broccoli, digestible like delivery
yeah,
to the user now that we're all on computers, right? So
yeah,
everyone's been talking about the broccoli thing, but like now that we're all on Google, that information still maybe hasn't gotten to Google yet. And so we need to put that info where the eyeballs are now, you know, whereas there's nothing new under the sun except
yeah.
for where that information is being shared, maybe.
How it's being shared, how it's being, how you explain certain concepts, how much easier can you explain a concept than the last person explained it. And AI helps a lot with creating metaphors, analogies, and it's helps in a lot of ways.
You mentioned if you touched on like writers being replaced or their jobs being taken by AI. I think probably, and this is my opinion, if that happens to them, they probably had it coming. First of all, because they could have easily been replaced by another human. It's just the client maybe didn't have access to that other human. Now everybody has access to AI, so these bad writers are going to be toast. What other? So I'll ask this question, and then I'll also we have some from our audience, some questions which I'll get into. Looks like we maybe have one, and then I have some as well from things that I want to know. But I do want to ask you, what? So for the next, like, let's say 6 months to a year, what other disruptions are going to happen now that people are using AI and SEO? Like, is Google going to change? Is the way we digest information going to change? What does that look like?
It's a good question. It's I can't predict the future, but I can say that, if you adapt with technology, you'll survive.
Yeah.
And there's things could change here and there. I'm not concerned at all. I think AI is just a tool that's going to make jobs easier. People freaked out when they came out with the button for the elevator because now nobody was at the hotel cranking you up in the elevators anymore. Oh no, what's going to happen to their jobs? Like,
They'll go get better jobs.
yeah, they'll go get better jobs. And guess what? If you are not a great writer and you really love writing and you wish you could make money off writing, well, guess what? Now you just open up a world of opportunity because you can get a solid baseline and improve it, and you can start getting better. And you don't have to be the best writer in the world to produce some great content. You can actually like learn as you go and start creating more content, seeing how it's done, and then like analyzing it against competition. And it kind of allows a whole new set of writers into the writing arena. I don't think it eliminates jobs. Like, if someone thinks their job is eliminated over AI, they just gave up.
Yeah.
It sounds like someone who just gives up to me.
Or it was eliminated, a year ago, and they've just sort of been coasting.
Yeah.
And now they finally realize that they're toast.
Yeah. It's like, you shouldn't have written 2 years worth of bad content. Maybe you'd still have a job.
Back to like it's their own fault, right? It's like it's there. AI is there for them to adopt if they're willing to adapt. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's just a tool.
So before I close out, I do have what advice, I guess. So a lot of our audience is just now starting with SEO as content creators themselves. Top 2 or 3 pieces of advice when they're just getting started. Did they need to gather intel? Did they need to become experts? What do you think?
Well, there's 3 things. Number 1, it takes a lot of practice to become an expert, and it can be boring to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. But that's how do you think Michael Jordan became Michael Jordan? He just kept playing. And that's, you look at anybody who's really good at what they did or what they do, they did it millions of times over and over and over again. So if you're willing to stick with something, even though it's, maybe starts to get boring or mundane, you're gonna get better, and you're gonna enjoy it the more you do it, especially as you get better at it. It's gonna be a lot more rewarding. So that's number one, is just do a lot of it. If you're writing content with AI, write a lot of content and try to get as creative as you can with it. Try to use different create your own different prompts to add into the content, or just get creative and try optimizing content in every way possible. If you've done that 100,000 times, you're going to always create amazing content. And then I'd say number two is sell. At the end of the day, learn how to sell. If you don't like it, you won't make money. That's super important. But also, like I said, back to number one, if you do it a lot and you do it really, really well, it's going to be really easy to sell, and you're going to have that confidence to sell it. And people will sense that, excitement in you, that creativeness in you, that eagerness to really show people what you are bringing to the table. You're providing value. If you're excited to provide value, selling is easy. Yeah. There's other things to it, of course, but overall, don't be afraid to sell, because being afraid to sell, if you're really truly creating value, is simple. You shouldn't be afraid to give value, create value. It's, if you can build somebody a homeless shelter, why would you be afraid to go ask someone if you can build it?
Yeah. Or the clients, like, if they don't want $5,000, right? Because they don't want it. They want revenue, right? Mm-hmm. They want 10, 15, 20 of revenue. They would trade $5,000 for $20,000 all day, every day, right? If you know that you can be the one to facilitate that, sell is not a bad word, right? Sell. Get it done. Help them out.
Yeah. I mean, no's are free.
Yeah.
And also learn how to track and prove value. So, meaning I would learn Google Analytics in and out, GA4, Google Search Console, any other content tools, any tracking. Basically, if you can track the performance of your content and measure it and show, hey, I created this blog post, it now ranks for 2,000 keywords, and it's gotten, X amount of form fills. You could say, the client's average service sale is $1,000. So their close rate of 25%, we generated $250,000 just from this single blog post. I'm just throwing numbers out there. But if you can, so number one, if you can do it a lot and become really, really good at it, which is by doing it a lot, and you can sell it and then you can track it, you'll be successful.
Yeah. Learn it, sell it, track it. I do have a question from Francisca here. She says, I think the goal nowadays is just really keeping our audience interested in our content. Therefore, I feel it's about having the right info, but also how we present it. What would you say to that?
I agree. There's definitely, I'll say that most people don't actually read all your content.
Yeah.
And some people hate to hear that. But most blog posts, don't get fully read by every user. I don't know the last time I even went to a blog post and read it from top to bottom. So yes, how we deliver the content, like the design, things, I'm huge on giving the answer right away. So it's like an inverse triangle. Mm-hmm. And where the top, you're giving answers. And so it depends on what the user, the intent is, search query and stuff like that. But it's like, is organic broccoli better than, non-organic broccoli? What's the difference? Okay, so at the top, the answer is, according to studies, organic broccoli has shown to not be any different, or it's better. I don't know what the answer is here. I'm just
yeah.
And then you say, because of the method of growing them or whatever, they both get sunlight, they both get water, blah, blah, blah. But if you're giving away those key takeaways the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then also maybe takeaways throughout the content, kind of just like allowing the user to digest what they just read. Hey, so I know you just read this entire paragraph, but overall, quickly, what I'm saying here is this. So yeah, user design is extremely important. I'm a huge believer in adding multiple forms of media to a page. So don't just have just content. You want images, videos, infographics. Really, the page should look nice and should look engaging, and a user should want to interact with the page, maybe submit a form, or maybe like click to another page, right? If you have the right interlinks. But the whole design of the content is extremely important. And I do see a lot of people that miss out on that a lot, that you can create great content. But like I said, the last time I remember reading through, especially just loads of content without any media in the middle, or even all you need is simply bold some things, or maybe put some color in a key takeaway, something like Content Scale does. Something to keep the user engaged, because just looking at a ton of content is just not going to keep attention.
Like you said, especially if it's not answering their questions right away, because like I think the goal is not necessarily keeping increasing the time on page for that blog, because if they're clicking down into like the actual offering, hey, we don't want them to spend a lot of time on the page. So to have that call to action nearer the top, all that information nearer the top. And hey, if they want to, they can scroll down to learn all about, exhaustively about that piece of content. Another one, here's probably the top question for people just starting out. Where do you find clients?
I'll tell you where I found clients when I started out. And there was two things I did. And it was, I would put on a suit and I'd walk business to business and asking them for their business.
Yeah.
People were impressed, and I did get business from it. They were like, wow. I've never had a digital company try to walk in my office, and okay, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
So that's one. Number two, when I started, I was in something called BNI, and it's like a little networking group. There's tons of them in every city. You can just join one of those groups, and people refer each other business. So yeah, if you're starting out, being able to talk to other people and just building relationships, that's key. However, you can get into any types of, and I'm talking in person, I'm not talking virtual. I'm not talking go join a Slack group about this, or go join a Facebook group about this. If you're just starting out and you don't have like results to prove that your work is like awesome and has ROI and all this stuff, you sell based on the relationship you build.
Mm-hmm.
So if people can trust you, then they will buy from you. And it's really a lot simpler to build that trust when you're in person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
just starting out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd recommend. And also, if you're a writer, for example, maybe talk to some SEO agencies, because they're all writing or hiring someone else to write the content for their customers. SEO agencies probably great to reach out to, right? Like, okay, how much are you paying for X amount of words or whatever? How's your content process? Would you mind, and maybe offer your first one or two articles free to really show like, hey, look, I've got awesome stuff here.
Yeah.
And if you're happy, we'll talk about price and everything. And I promise you it'll be worth it. I'll show you.
Yeah, but blow them away for free and boom, like you could be in the door.
Yeah, improve value.
Yeah. Francisca follows up with that. The first question, she says, yeah, we're scanners. We love that reverse triangle theory. That's a great point. I do like that illustration as well. I want to give you a shout out, Chris, for Content Hacker Live. So I want to help our audience remember that to sign up for Content Hacker Live, first of all, it's this March in Austin. We're going to be physically in Austin, Texas at Content Hacker Live. You can find out more at contenthackerlive.com/event. Let me put up a little banner here to show you the webpage there. It's going to be $197 for a virtual pass if you cannot physically be there. $397 for the live, like in real life, you are physically there. Event pass for general admission. $797 for the live in real life pass for VIP. And I do want to people to know that tickets are going to double. So ticket prices are going to double mid-February. So I would buy now to lock in those prices. Chris is going to speak. You excited, Chris?
Yeah, of course. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be cool to be there. 10% off, by the way, for community members. So if you are in Content Hacker community right now, there is a link in that community. It's on the left navigation pane. It says Content Hacker Live 24, and you get 10% off all those prices I just listed if you are a Content Hacker community member. If you're not a community member, you can go to contenthacker.com and click Become a Content Hacker. I do want to thank Chris for being here. He is truly an expert, and I'm glad he can share like a brain dump of everything he knows about this stuff. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, thank you, John, for having me on here.
Absolutely. You guys join me tomorrow for part 4 of our 4-part series. And Chris, thank you. We'll see you.